Hello, this is Bob Wells here, and welcome to another episode of the Undercurrent Stories podcast, where we dive deep into the hidden depths of our world, one fascinating guest at a time. Today is a real undercurrent story. So somewhere beneath the surface of the ocean, right now, as you listen to this, something invisible is happening. Trillions of organisms, each one smaller than a grain of sand, are quietly doing the work that keeps you alive. They produce every other breath you take. They have shaped the climate of this planet for over 3 billion years, and they sit at the base of almost every food chain on Earth. You have probably never thought about them. Almost no one has. But one man spent years diving into that invisibility, crossing oceans, working with scientists, indigenous communities and food pioneers, chasing a quiet conviction that what we've overlooked might be exactly what we need. His name is Vincent Doumeizel. He's an advisor to the United Nations, a food innovation expert, and the author of a book that asks a deceptively simple question: what if the solution to feeding the planet, healing our seas, and slowing climate change has been drifting beneath the waves? Today we're going into the deep end, and we're going to be talking about plankton. Hello and welcome to Undercurrent Stories, Vincent.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on. Now, I must just say for listeners that I met you in person a couple of weeks ago at the Lloyd's Register at a private book launch of your fantastic new book, The Power of Plankton.
Yes, indeed.
And what I didn't expect, and we were talking about this just before you came on, what I didn't expect was a little gig.
Yeah, well, we all have parallel life, and I do have a band where I live in France, and we are touring. We released 2 albums, and one of the guests to the book launch was one of the best sax in the world, the guy who played with Prince, Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, Amy Winehouse, and many others. So
yeah,
and he featured on one of our tracks on one of our albums. So yeah, we had a great time last week. Yeah, too.
Well, it certainly sort of rounded off a very nice evening, and I really enjoyed your singing, playing guitar, and his saxophone. So anyway, we had you on the show. I should have said welcome back, actually, Vincent, because we had you on about 3 years ago talking about the seaweed revolution, which was great.
Yeah.
And so just for any listeners who haven't heard about you so far, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into what you're doing and your life growing up, please?
Well, sure, yeah. I started my career in Africa, and I was quite shocked by the water. There and experiencing the water when you are 20 years old is quite a shock. So I decided to work around that. And after 20 years working in the food industry, I realized that there was no solution on land, but that the solution was on the ocean. 70% of our planet is covered by ocean that contribute to less than 2% of our food. So I turned my gaze to the ocean trying to find solution. Then the Japanese made obvious that seaweed is a very good case to feed people, very nutritious food. But seaweed does not grow in isolation. And so I did the book. I launched I joined the United Nations at some point to promote seaweed worldwide. I met with all the presidents in the world and so forth, and I pushed very hard for the seaweed gospel, singing the seaweed gospel around the world. But then I realized one thing is that nothing grows in isolation, and seaweed farming is conditioned to a black box that's surrounding them that we call plankton. And that was just amazing because when you observe a droplet of water, because it's transparent, you may think it's empty, but actually it's an abundant ecosystem teeming with life, millions of invisible organisms that live together and interact there. That's where the most extraordinary story began, the unique epic that is a story of life. And that dawned on me working on seaweed, visited seaweed farm, that if the plankton is of good quality, seaweed will thrive and grow very fast. If the plankton is not the right one for them, around them, then they will not grow, or they may even be they may even disappear totally. So I saw like maybe we should try to understand what it is there, and that's how I got into plankton. And then I realized that this was totally overlooked. I mean, plankton contribute to 99% of the biological carbon pump, and we know that the ocean absorbs 30% of the greenhouse gas. And still, it has never been mentioned ever at COP climate. So we did 30 COPs without mentioning something that is contributing to 1/3 of the absorption of our global emission, with the biggest carbon sink maybe in the world. And same for the COP biodiversity. Never any mention of plankton, and plankton is by far the largest biodiversity in the world. And our planet is a plankton planet in the end. By the way, plankton means drifting, which is wandering, or in Greek. So it is to describe their erratic behavior. And the planet comes from the same word, because the planet drift in the universe, just like plankton drift in the ocean. So the plankton is characterized that it cannot go against the current, any animal there. But it gathers a wide range of them. And yeah, it's totally overlooked in any international meeting. No NGOs is funding plankton based on project, while plankton shaped our planet and terraform our planet and hold the future of it. It's like the basis of everything we have on Earth. I mean, out of the 4 billion years of that life existed, once again, as I mentioned, it all started as a form of plankton, and 3.5 billion years has been purely plankton. So any other type of life, notably the life on land, is like an epiphenomenon, representing less than 10% of the life history on the planet. So we are a plankton planet in the end.
It's quite amazing, having read the book and listened to you do your talk. I mean, I think most of us, most of us who would possibly be listening to this podcast, and including myself beforehand, thought of plankton as little tiny insecty fish things that were in the ocean. Big whales would come along, they'd swallow them as they sort of hoovered them up. But I didn't realize how important they were to the origin of life, and how much oxygen they produce.
Yeah, and not only oxygen, by the way. They sequester carbon, they produce oxygen, they produce the gas that creates the cloud, so the water cycle and the rain. They recycle all the nutrients, I mean phosphorus and nitrogen and everything we need. So they are instrumental to all the geochemical cycle we have on the planet, and they are the key, which is why, I mean, what's at stake is so important, because if we understand them, we can actually fix the planet. And you're right, no one knows about them. They are the greatest unsung heroes on the planet we have. I mean, I wonder why we don't talk about them at COP and at the UN and at NGOs, but it starts at school. I mean, I wonder why we keep talking about dinosaurs to our kids. I mean, the dinosaurs are dead for 65 million years. They've been wiped out by a comet. Plankton survived, and they maintain the balance of the planet. So let's, instead of talking about T-rex and then Diplodocus, let's talk about diatoms and coccolithophore and copepod, because they are way more important, you know? So let's talk about talking about dinosaur. And indeed, plankton is totally unknown. Most of the people will refer plankton will be like krill, which is one type of plankton, but which is quite a tiny portion of it, because plankton will gather bacteria, archaea, which is another big domain, big part of life on the planet, fungi, virus, phytoplankton, zooplankton, and most of it being mixoplankton, because life being way too more complicated in the ocean than on land. Most of the plankton are both vegetal and animal. They are not one or the other. They are mixoplankton, we call them. They can be called Vegimals as well, possibly. But yeah, they are both. So that's an incredibly diverse source of organism. And to illustrate that, if we take the smallest virus living in the ocean, which is planktonic, which is 50,000 times thinner than a hair, and you compare it to the siphonophore, which is another plankton, which happens to be the longest animal on the planet, which could be 100 meters long.
Wow.
We are comparing something that has the size, I mean, let's say if the smallest plankton had the size of a hand or of a needle, then the biggest one would be the size of Great Britain. That's in terms of scale of size, that's what we are talking about. Yeah. And indeed, when you talk about plankton, most of the people, they will refer to krill, or possibly for the kills, to the heavy character of SpongeBob SquarePants. Sheldon Plankton, same. Anyway, very famous with the kids, but no other mention. And very little research so far, even though it is changing right now because of the new technology, which is why it's also a great solution for the planet and a great source of hope for the years to come, because we are starting right now, over the last year, to understand plankton, to understand the very basis of our planet.
Just going back to the diversity and the huge range of creatures and viruses and bacteria, etc., which plankton encompass. I didn't realise actually until I read your book and heard you talk that jellyfish were also included within plankton, and also this one that's 100 meters long. I mean,
they are kind of jellyfish. Yeah. They are called typhonophores, but jellyfish are definitely plankton. Once again, plankton is anything that cannot swim, that has no limbs to swim against.
So it just drifts around with the ocean.
It's around.
Are plankton specific to the oceans and seas, or can they be in rivers and lakes as well?
There's plankton in any droplet of water. Right. So even on your window when it's raining, there's plenty of plankton in the rains. In any drop of water, there are millions of organisms, virus and all. And once again, virus, they are not dangerous. This one, they are good ones. They maintain the balance of life, and they maintain the balance of our ecosystem by eradicating 30% of the phytoplankton every day. Otherwise, we would be totally grown under.
You just got me worried a little bit, because you say in every drop of water. What about when I turn the tap on and want a drink of water? Have I got any plankton in that?
And there will be mostly plankton organisms that will filter your water in cleaning systems. I mean, in the water plants, they will mainly use a lot of plankton to filter and to clean the water. So once again, I mean, they are not dangerous animals. I mean, plankton is 95% of the marine biomass. So we keep talking about charismatic animals like turtles and dolphins and whales, but plankton is by very, very far the biggest part of it. And in any droplet of water, you will have life, you will have plankton.
Okay, so even in drinking water, there will be a...
Yeah, you'll find them.
Right.
Less, of course, because it's more, but you'll find them.
Yeah. Hopefully.
There's bacteria everywhere on this planet. You know, we are a planet of bacteria.
Yeah. And plankton themselves, I mean, obviously they're at the bottom of the food chain. So what do they feed on?
Well, there's different, I mean, plankton, there's different level of plankton, of course. So we often say that to produce 1 kilogram of salmon, you need 10 tons of phytoplankton, because phytoplankton is creating life based on sunlight. Basically, I mean, phytoplankton had a stroke of genius, maybe the greatest invention of all time, which is photosynthesis. Back to billion years ago, some plankton invented photosynthesis and created biomass out of sunlight and carbon dioxide. And they created biomass, they release oxygen. And by the way, at that time, it was a toxic gas, so it has killed most of the living organisms on the planet. But then, I mean, some get adapted and invented a breathing mechanism, and then here we are. But anyway, so the basic part will be created from sunlight, and they are incredibly productive. Incredibly. Consider that if we say, I mean, that half of the oxygen comes from plankton, half of the oxygen comes from forest and plants on land. Forests and plants on land, they are 84% of the biomass of our planet. Plankton is 0.2% of our biomass on our planet, but they produce the same amount of oxygen. So they are incredibly productive because they are reproducing very, very quickly. They are not big at a given time, but their productivity is incredible. If plankton was a tree, there would be a tree growing from the earth to the moon every day.
Wow.
So you can imagine that. That's the plankton productivity on the planet.
Yeah.
So So that the first level is really created from sunlight, the phytoplankton. But once again, a lot of it is doing both photosynthesis and eating other organisms. But let's say then the next layer would be phytoplankton, who are feeding on or zooplankton, who are feeding on phytoplankton. So there will be animal like these small copepods.
So sorry to interrupt. Just for listeners, so zooplankton is the animal one, and phytoplankton is what, a one-cell vegetable type one?
Phytoplankton would be the vegetal part. Taking into account that if we want to be scientifically accurate, most of the phytoplankton is also zooplankton, because they can do both.
Okay.
But typically because we try to map our land classification to the ocean, forgetting that the ocean is way more complex, because we are talking about 4 billion years of evolution in terms of complexity compared to 500 million years on land. So you cannot compare the two ecosystem, and most of the classification on land, they do not fit the one in the ocean. But anyway, let's say that the first level is vegetal, phytoplankton, that will feed the second level, which is zooplankton, the animal. And then crustacean and shellfish will come, and then small fish, and then big fish, and then carnivorous fish. Let's say that's the way it goes, roughly. But it's incredibly complex. This food chain. And some big fish like or some mammals like whales, they will feed directly on zooplankton, and there's a lot of interaction between all of them. It's once again highly complex.
I'm very fascinated. I'd like to talk about the origin of life. Well, not so much the very origin, not Luca, but more the fact that there's an argument made in the book, and I'm not sure whether this is a widely held scientific acceptance, that we could ourselves, because we've come from the ocean ourselves and originate from plankton as life, that we came from another planet. And what you say in the book is that the Earth has been around for about 4.5 billion years, and yet life started not that long after, in the scheme of things, about 4.225. I was wondering, Vincent, if you could just elaborate on that, please.
Well, yeah, that's very surprising, and that's quite new. Until recently, we thought that life was 3.5, 3.8, and recently we discovered that it dates back to 4.2, actually, which is, there was only a few hundred millions of years without any life, and which is incredible, because when you think that the planet was created after the Big Bang, and it was a stardust, basically agglomeration of dust of other stars, and then there was nothing to host life there, or to create life, which is even more. All was life created there. We are talking about rocks and lava, and that's it. Nothing else. How can you imagine a bubble of lipid with some DNA inside, with some capacities to reproduce, and to generate the diversity we have today? It's just unbelievable. And indeed, some scientists saying that, meteorites, the Earth was bombarded by meteorites over tens of millions of years. Some of them were iced, and we know that the ocean are older. Some part of the ocean are older than our planet and that our solar system. So we know that some part of the ocean come from other planet or part somewhere else, and maybe there was some cells of life in there that were transported to the Earth. So that's one possibility. There's multiple theory about how life started, how this first bubble of life started on Earth. Hydrothermal springs are another quite likely source of life. Maybe they created the chemical conditions to create this first bubble of life. But really, the truth is that we don't know. But what is sure is that, initially life may have been benthic, which means that they were in the sediment, and then they got into suspension in the ocean when the ocean was there. And that enabled a crazy thing, which is evolution, because when organisms are in suspension, they can meet and create symbiotic relationship. They can create evolution. They will cooperate, they will get together, and then they will create evolution. And looking at this, one interesting thing to notice is that the success of life comes much more from cooperation than from competition. These organisms that met, they mostly cooperate. And that's all life was successful on the planet and evolution started. And I think that's a very, very important takeaways from this.
Fascinating. Thank you for that, Vincent. One other question I've got to do with plankton and their capacity to live is, do we know, well, first of all, do we know how long they live for, and whether the population of plankton as a cumulative mass is increasing at the moment or decreasing, or sort of about the same?
Well, some plankton will live for very long, and some will be like a few minutes. So they are very different. I mean, once again, we are talking about millions, if not billions, of organisms that have nothing in common. Except that they are drifting. But the interesting part is whether plankton biomass is growing or decreasing. It has changed all over the years, all over the history. The plankton biomass and the plankton communities, more importantly, has changed a lot. And that has shaped the planet as it is. They have created the oxygen. When the phytoplankton one proliferated, they created the oxygen resource that we have. They sequester carbon, depending on the type of plankton. They will sequester carbon if they have shells, because they will think through what we call marine snow. So they will sink in the deep ocean. So they will sequester their biomass. They will sequester carbon in deep ocean, and then it will be sequestered for thousands, if not millions of years. And at the end of the day, some of it will be oil. I mean, today the oil production is mostly made from plankton. We burn every year 1 million years of sedimented plankton. So when plankton have shells, they will sink. If they have no shells, they will stay at the surface and release the carbon in the atmosphere. And some plankton are also creating methane, like archaeas. So they will warm up the planet. And the planet went from plus 100 degrees Celsius to minus 25, depending on life there, depending on the type of plankton. So I would not say, I mean, there's no clear theory that plankton is decreasing or increasing. What we know is that plankton is changing. And today, we are living in an ecosystem that has been characterized as 300 million years of pretty stable conditions for life, where the plankton that are sequestering carbon have proliferated, so diatoms, coccolithophore. So they create this cool planet where life has flourished, and where human being came to life, and that's, if we do not maintain this plankton mix, then the ocean will become toxic and will not absorb as much greenhouse gas, or may even release some gas. So that will be the problem. So that's why it's so important to maintain. It's not about the biomass of plankton as a whole. It's to maintain the right communities that are the foundation for the life as we know it. Because we know that if we change the foundation, the rest will crumble. It does not mean that another building will not be built after all. No. And we already have an idea about what will come next if we continue this way. But what's sure is that the current building will be destroyed if you remove the foundation. So that's where we are. Once again, if you want to repair your house, start with the foundation, not with the rooftop. Foundation for life on the planet is plankton. Let's repair our planet. Let's fix our main problems, tackling the very core part of life on Earth.
And I'd just like to talk about one example of going back to the, I think you called it snow, didn't you? The shells going down to the bottom of the sea, white snow.
Yeah, white snow indeed.
And one example of that, I believe, are the White Cliffs of Dover.
Exactly. Well, that's also another example that that plankton has terraformed the planet, because all the rocks we have on the planet most of the rocks have been formed by plankton. and the white cliffs of Dover, they are indeed 99% dead creatures. They are dead coccolithophore, just like the sharks that you and I we used to use at school. I went to school last week and I realized that they are not using any sharks, but you and I we used to. We were using dead creatures to write things on the
yes,
blackboard.
very much so.
That's made of this dead marine snows, these dead creatures that fall down in the ocean.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they sediment, they create rocks, and because of tectonic shift, the rocks are extracted from the ocean and they create mountains and most of the desert are created. I mean, this white desert, notably in Egypt and so forth, they are white because of these shells of plankton. Yes. The pyramid of Gizeh is made from plankton. Most of the cathedral of Rouen in France is made from plankton. Everything, the oxygen comes from plankton. Once again, everything is made from plankton around us. And there are also a different type of plankton will be also responsible for the color of salmon scales, for the flamingo feathers, for the prawn shells, as well as the ocean, the Red Sea, and blue rain. It's all about plankton here.
So chalk is plankton, basically.
Yeah. Chalk is plankton. And actually, the taste of our champagne, I mean, we had champagne during the book launch last week, and the taste of our champagne is characterized by this type of rocks that are in Champagne, because that was the ocean before. And in this very place, there's a lot of these rocks, which give a specific taste to champagne. So when you experience champagne, when you enjoy champagne, the taste is because of plankton. So it's really everywhere.
Well, I think it was only right and proper that we had champagne at the book launch.
Yeah.
To complement the book. Just on the, I'd like to go on about I'd like to talk about climate change and some of the effects and some of the pictures that you painted in the book in terms of the seas that become dead zones. Can you just elaborate on the dead zone for listeners, please?
Well, at some point, the pollution is so big and the change in terms of conditions are so big that there will be zone in the ocean, dead zone in the ocean, which means a zone where there will be no oxygen anymore. And most of life cannot exist without oxygen. So you will end up with, thousands of square kilometers, where life is not possible anymore because of this ecosystem disruption. Because there will be too much bacteria, not enough fish, too much jellyfish, and so forth. So that there will be a big ecosystem disruption that will end up in a dead zone where only anoxic, which are organisms that can live without oxygen, which are mostly methane producing organism. So meaning that dead zone will contribute massively to climate change. And jellyfish are the ultimate survivor. I mean, we may come back to that, but they are a typical example of where we can go if all goes wrong. They would proliferate in this dead zone because they need very little oxygen to survive. And the dead zone are a very fast growing concern at the moment because pollution and the massive amount of fertilizers that we dump in our ocean are creating like dead zones that are really, really worrying, and nothing can survive there.
Mm. Yeah, it was interesting to read about the Romans, how they use jellyfish to put at the base of their vines for growing grapes.
Yeah, but jellyfish is an interesting example because once again, they are the most resilient animal on the planet. They survive the 5 mass extinction. I mean, they survive about anything, predators, ashes, climate warming, very harsh, lava, storm, comets that wipe out the dinosaurs. They survive everything. Over the last 800 million years, there was the first living organism, complex animal living on the planet. They survived the 5 mass extinctions. They adapt to everything, and now they adapt to everything as well. They can, they are happy with our climate change because they are very resilient. They can adapt and they like warm waters. They will be happy with overfishing because it will kill their predators and their competitors, and they will feed on the larvae of these predators and competitors that are planktonic, by the way. So that will lead to species extinction very quickly. Obviously, they will strive in plastic pollution because plastic bags tends to kill their biggest predator, which is turtle, and also they will spawn on microplastic to benefit from the floatability of microplastic and spread their eggs around the world. And a jellyfish can have up to 19,000 eggs a day. So that's quite a lot. They are very prolific. They will enjoy ocean acidification as well because it prevents small crustacean and small shellfish to create their shell. So it's easier to digest for them and so forth. So that's how we end up in a jellyfish soup in the world. And when you can see some places where they're like tens of square kilometers where you have jellyfish up to 13 meters deep and 800 specimen per square meter. So it's like you cannot move there, you cannot do anything, you cannot have any boat, you cannot do any activities there. It's and I mean, if we keep on like this, I mean, if we continue like this, I mean, we may end up with an ocean of jellyfish, and maybe the future of the planet is a jellyfish. I don't know. I mean, maybe they will survive to everyone, and maybe that they will adapt and become the smartest animal on the planet, and the future is not the planet of the ape, but the planet of the jellyfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are a typical example that it's not about destroying our biodiversity. Biodiversity will survive. I mean, ecosystem life will survive to us. The question is how much we want to maintain the current ecosystem in place.
Yeah. One of the things I found, and certainly in the book and at your talk at the launch, you're quite positive about the future in terms of, and hope, I think was the word you used, in terms of, we've got all this up, we've got nearly 9-10 billion people on the planet. How can we survive together when we are, destroying the oceans, polluting the atmosphere, etc., etc.? And yet you're quite hopeful.
Yeah, because we have not started to scratch about the core essence of life on our planet. We don't know about it yet. I mean, I give you a figure. 10 years ago, we started to investigate on virus in the ocean. We knew about 40 viruses. Now we have investigated a bit and we know 500,000. No, we have discovered over the last 10 years 115 million new genes.
Wow.
In the ocean.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's complex, the ocean, because it's microscopic. Now we have high definition microscope. We have AI. We have genomics and DNA sequencing. We have satellite that can tell the plankton mix out of the color of the ocean. We have drones and remote sensors and camera that can be in the ocean and monitor plankton. We can sample plankton way better than we used to. So we have just starting right now over the last 10 years to understand the very core principles of life on the planet. And if we understand plankton, we can understand all the cycles of elements on this planet. So we can fix them. It's like plankton is the heart and the blood of our planet, just like heart and the blood are key to our body. I mean, if we understand plankton, we can repair our planet. We can fix a lot of things because we will understand the core fundamental. So I'm very optimistic because once again, when I realize the number of things that has been discovered over just the last 10 years, which is nothing, I feel like we are heading to an age of amazing discoveries. Natural one. I'm not talking about technological one, even though technology will be used to do that. But we will understand the real complexity of life. And understanding the planet biology as a whole, you can heal the planet, you can fix our problems and recreate the cycle. I mean, we know that the limiting factor for plankton to sequester carbon in ocean is the presence of iron, because irons enable plankton to create their shell, basically, to make it simple. So, and there was a guy saying, I mean, a very, very famous scientist from Doumeizel in the US, saying that give me half a tanker of iron and I will give you the next ice age. Just put some iron in the ocean, they will sink carbon. Of course, it's not that easy and not that safe to do it. But at the moment, given our current understanding of the ocean dynamics, but the potential is here. I mean, you can sequester a lot of carbon using plankton. Once again, they did that before. They decrease the temperature by tens of degrees in the past, and they increased the same. So they can fix that. They can create more oxygen. They can create more fresh water because once again, the clouds are formed by the. They can create more life. They can create more biomass in the ocean. Not only in the ocean, because ultimately, I mean, we know that the change of plankton has led to the extinction of 70% of the seabirds over the last 20 years. So it's not only about the ocean. The story is global. I mean, everything is interconnected, and everything we do on land ends up in the ocean, where it's recycled, or where it becomes a pollution, or where it is sedimented. That's our call to decide what to do with these resources.
So the interface that you have as an advisor to the United Nations, what type of reception do you get from the politicians?
Well, I mean, this book, I mean, The Power of Plankton, is a continuation of an effort that we made 2 years ago when we realized that at global scale, and notably at the UN, there was no discussion about plankton. How come ocean absorb 30% of the global emission? And the first mention of the ocean is at COP21. So 21 COP to start mentioning something that absorbs 1/3 of the global gas. Come on, it could have been better. And still no mention about plankton. So we did a manifesto, a plankton manifesto. So I brought together the 30 best specialists in the world to me and to my ecosystem. So from Japan, China, South America, UK, a lot, of course, France, America, Chile, and so forth. We all work together on a small document of 20 pages, which is called the Plankton Manifesto, the UN Plankton Manifesto. And out of it, we are trying to promote it to the policymakers of this world and to the NGO managing directors and to raise awareness about the importance of plankton. And we are just starting, to be honest with you. It's very complex because once again, it does not trigger anything in our imagination. Plankton is just some kind of mystery, but we're progressing, and at least we have this document that is purely science driven, no controversy. I mean, it's a consensus of the best scientists in the world. So we cannot say it's not true or it's that's it. It's a bit like we did a plankton IPCC, but trying to bring together and it was a 20-page document for the UN because these guys they have no time to read the book, of course, but there were so much stories about that. I mean, we did 6 months. I mean, it took us 6 months to do this small document, but there was so much stories that I thought like, okay, maybe I should write a book about it, and because it's it creates a lot of hopes as well and a lot of optimism. This topic because so much is still to be discovered. And as Saint-Exupéry used to say in The Little Prince, the essential is always invisible to our eyes. So plankton is invisible to our eyes, but it is essential to life on our planet and to maintain it as it is.
Yeah, well, I think it's marvellous what you're doing. And are you beginning to see people's sort of eyes light up when you start talking about it now? People in senior positions?
I hope so. I was on BBC in front of 9 million people last week.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
9 million listeners. Yeah. So I think it's a good outreach. It's a good way to reach people and to talk about it. I will continue. I mean, my activism on this because it's so important. And that's also something which is interesting is that the power of the book remains very strong. We live in a digital age, but if you want to be received by presidents and if you want to be listened by presidents and by policymakers, by government, and a book is something very strong. It gives you the right credibility, and it's a very extraordinary way to tell stories as well. Yeah. And stories are the best way to change the world to me. I mean, I do a lot of talks in school when I have time. And I think that's the best way to change the world as well, because these kids, they will shape the world of tomorrow and they need to know more than we do.
Yes, no, I think it's great. And the book is very good. I mean, I found it particularly good because...
Thank you very much.
Because it's in short chapters. And you know what people's attention spans are like these days, certainly mine is. I can read one or two chapters in 10 minutes. And I can gestate it and learn it and go back a few hours later or tomorrow, and it's great. You mentioned the word activism, or your activism there, and it is activism, really, isn't it? If we've got any listeners who are particularly interested in sort of joining the project, is there any way they can do that? What would you suggest to them?
Of course, I mean there are so many things to be done. Well, first of all, marine biology is a thing. We need much more marine biology than we have. We need to embed plankton in our daily life. We did not mention that, but there's a lot of information that could be done out of plankton. It's a source of food, a source of feed, a source of medicine, a source of fertilizer, to replace fertilizers, to replace packaging. I had some plankton sunglasses last week during the launch to replace because they can be a substitute to plastic. They can be a source of light as well. Some people were considering to light the cities because most of the plankton is bioluminescent and beautiful, by the way. So, I mean, I think talking about plankton around you is the best way to change the world. Then, if you are really into it, studying plankton, let's start to and see what kind of innovation you can do out of it. It's endless. Really, the most abundant plankton that exists on the planet, diatoms, they are able to create a silica shell, which is a shell made from glass, basically. They are a single cellular organism, but they can create glass around their organism at any temperature in the ocean, like 4, 5, 10 degrees.
So they're actually making their own glass.
They are creating their own shell of glass in the ocean at 5 degrees, when we, with our big brain, we still need 1,500 degrees to create glass on land. So let's try to understand how they are doing. That would be a very clever way to cut our energy consumption for glass manufacturing. But anyway, but that's endless. I mean, some plankton creates naturally hydrogen, and they can be a very good source of biofuel. We can fly planes out of plankton biofuel. So that's endless, the potential for plankton. For food, of course, it's. I mean, we all know about spirulina. Spirulina is a planktonic bacteria, and that's the most nutritious food you can get. I mean, the healthiest food you can get. Spirulina is like a miracle. So, I mean, there's so much thing we can do. We can try to commercialize. We can try to support. We can try to understand. But we need everyone in this revolution. Everyone in trying to understand and spread the word around us. Tell how plankton is important, and how we need to be optimistic and full of hope, because the best is yet to come. I don't think we will do anything out of negativity and pessimism. That will not lead us anywhere. And I think if you want to be into action, you need to be full of expectation, hopes, and you need to be optimist. And I'm very optimistic because I can see that science is moving very fast.
Yes.
And we need more people to talk about it, to study plankton, and to work with us. So join us in this movement.
Yeah, we certainly will. Well, Vincent, this has been a really great conversation. It's been so interesting to learn more about plankton and understand just how vital and important it is to life on Earth. I can thoroughly recommend the book.
Thank you.
It's got lots in it, and we only really have scratched the surface. There's loads more to get into. My guest today has been Vincent Doumeizel. Vincent is the author of the book, The Power of Plankton, and we're going to put links to the book and Vincent's work in the show notes. Thank you for coming on the show, Vincent.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon.